Welcome to the Learning Reinvented Podcast, brought to you by myself, Katie Godden.
And James Politulo from The Learning Effect. There are lots of learning podcasts out there, so we wanted to do something slightly different. This week, we're going to be looking at the important topic of how you create and form and keep new habits. So, Katie, this is prompted by sort of the age-old problem in learning of how do you really get people to do things differently and change behaviour, because we see so often in our professional lives, but also in our personal lives, people wanting to be better at doing something, but they want to do it, but don't really put in the work, effort, or make those changes. And there is millions or billions of pounds wasted globally each year looking at training or learning or development programs that are trying to get people to do things better or differently. And we wanted to look at why it didn't really work, but also how you can make those changes. And in that conversation, we started reflecting on things that we've done. And you've certainly been on a bit of a transformation of making a change in your own personal habits. So do you want to share a little bit about what you've been doing?
Yeah, so I think from the beginning of this year, so 2025, I made a conscious decision. I was going to say effort, but it was a decision to change, I think, the way that I looked, and kind of that then impacted other aspects, which I'll go on to. So predominantly what I wanted to do was essentially lose weight, but I wanted to do it in a productive way. So that started sort of mid last year, actually, and then I really committed to it at the beginning of the year. So previously in the past, I'd tried to lose weight and gone full force into something, set up training plans for every single day, a diet that was completely unrealistic. So I decided to change that way of thinking and do it slightly different this year. And essentially what I've done is done things, but just gradually. So last year I started doing the couch to 5K, which I can do quite well now, and I can easily run 5K. And then this year I wanted to do 10K, so I started upping how I'm running and the distance that I'm running. So that was quite easy to keep in my plan and my diary. But I then started adding little bits to it as well. So things like doing boxing, going to the gym, and then just changing my diets. But there's small changes and things that I can gradually amp up if I need to. So maybe going to the gym a little bit more. So starting off with kind of the MVP, I guess, of what I wanted to do. And then once I was getting used to it, so starting off with maybe 1 or 2 gym sessions, and then 1 run a week. And then once that became more comfortable, then I'd add in another gym session, all whilst kind of maintaining a good diet as well. And that's not unrealistic. I think there's so much information out there that you don't even know where to begin with all of this stuff. But I've then managed to maintain that. So we're sort of 7 months in. And now I consistently go to the gym, I consistently run, I consistently eat well. But it is not just changed the way that I look, which it has done, it's changed other aspects of my life as well. So something that I was quite surprised about, before I was one of those people that sort of lived for the weekend a little bit as well, and I loved going out. But having changed my exercise and my diet and being way more conscious of that, I've now not gone out so much as well. And initially, I guess it was probably a conscious thing. I was making that effort, dry January. So I did that in January, and I was able to do that quite easily. But going on from there, I haven't had any reason to not drink, if that makes sense, but I've been very conscious about the impact that it's having on the positive things that I'm doing in my life. So, going out, exercising, eating well, and then if I go out and drink loads, I know that that's going to have a negative impact. So I'm consciously thinking about that. So I choose not to do it so much. which has been something that's been quite surprising. And I've actually really enjoyed not going out so much as well. Because when I do go out and have a drink, it's normally for an occasion, and I actually enjoy it more because it's not something that I'm doing regularly. So I think that's been a really positive thing. So not just for health reasons, but going out nowadays is ridiculously expensive. So financially, I'm a lot better off. Productivity then rises as well. I think when you're impacting your health and your mindset, you become more positive, and I think that helps with productivity. So there's been tons of different aspects that it's impacted, and it's something that I think I'll continue to do, but may change things up.
So you mentioned, there's lots to unpack there, but you mentioned at the beginning that you made this conscious effort or a goal of wanting to lose weight, and that's something that is probably very familiar to lots of people, that a similar type goal: lose weight, look good, be healthier, something around that aim. But how did you turn that from just that, I want to do a New Year's resolution and I want to lose weight, to actually doing that?
I've tried to do it in the past and I haven't been successful because I haven't been consistent and I haven't stuck with it. So I think in a world where we're constantly getting instant gratification from doing things, where you've got everything that's easy and, everything's to hand, we're used to having that kind of instant need and requirement, and unfortunately losing weight doesn't work like that if you're doing it naturally. It's something that's going to take time, and it's a gradual process, and you don't get that instant gratification. Like anyone would know, going out for one run isn't going to change how you look in the mirror. But if you consistently do that throughout the months or weeks even, you'll start to see the difference, even if they're small to begin with. But then when you have that comparison, that's the thing that carries you on. So I think because I'd tried in the past and I hadn't been successful, I still realized where I was going wrong with the lack of consistency. And this is out there a lot as well on social media. If you look at things to do with health and fitness, but also if you're talking about learning as well, it's consistency, it's practice, it's all of those things that I think we're kind of aware of, but they're in the back of your mind. And I knew this time round, in order to achieve what I wanted to achieve, which was kind of losing weight and looking good by summer, I had to start early enough to begin with and be realistic with it. But equally, I had to keep consistent and I had to keep doing it. So there's been times where I haven't necessarily wanted to go out for a run, or I haven't necessarily wanted to go to the gym or go to boxing, but I pushed myself, and that's helped me get through that. And actually you feel really good after doing it. So you can go with like, oh God, can't be bothered with this. But then you come out and you're like, I'm so glad I've gone with this. I'm so glad that I went. So I think most of it's in your mind, but when you start to see those small little changes and you start to feel those small changes, that's what's carried me going through it. But I think it was the grit and determination, because I'd failed before, that I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. I think that's what drove me this time. And there was a real desire to fit into the pair of shorts that I couldn't fit in last summer, and that annoyed me. That was probably one of my biggest goals. And I actually tried those same pair of shorts on, and they're too big this year. I tried them on this morning. And so, yeah, so I think they're personal reasons, but equally having failed previously and then understanding a little bit more about what I needed to do, that helped me carry on and helped me kind of drive through that.
It's really interesting. You talked about a couple of things. So you talked about that you can't go out and run once and that's going to have the discernible impact. And clearly this is a learning podcast, but if we think about that, how many organizations have that one pill fix, which is like the unnatural way of losing weight? It isn't sustainable. It's a one-off that's meant to solve the ills. And you also came back to talking about that personal motivation. And a lot of the times I think we fail in learning as well, is we're pushing our motivation onto someone else, and we're expecting people to do something if they don't feel they own it or they don't have that inner drive. Because like you said, you've wanted to do this time and time again, but there's something being the trigger in you that's created that personal motivation to see you through those challenges that you're talking about. Or and you talked about gratification, and you may not feel that you're seeing the results, but you're getting the endorphins of going to the exercise or whatever else it happens to be. So there are rewards along the way. They may not be those discernible things you can see, but looking back, you've now hit one of those goals you set of, or you've exceeded a goal of fitting in the shorts. You can fit in them and too much or whatever. But so it's interesting, those things that you've worked through that so often we face as challenges in business and don't really tackle them. We still do the almost the New Year's resolution of I'm going to do this, and then it just fades and doesn't have the impact.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to making them small and realistic and building them up. I didn't, like I said, in the past, what I've been doing is kind of going full force and full hog into things, and it's just not realistic. It's not sustainable in the long run. And there's too many changes too quickly. So and then you're not able to keep those up. So I think this is something, that's transferable, or you can recognize it in business as well. If you make lots of changes all at the same time, to get them to land is going to be really difficult. Whereas if you think about it logically and pragmatically, what changes and what steps do we need to make? The small changes and small steps do we need to make in order to be able to then achieve the required outcome or goal? And that's essentially the logic that I applied to doing what I'm doing now, is the small steps are the things that are going to help you get there. And it doesn't make the change seem so dramatic as well. So like if you apply that to fitness and running and stuff, you're not going to go off and run a marathon from your first run. That's something that you need to work up to. You need to practice, and those changes will come, and you'll be able to still then eventually reach that goal of running that marathon. Whereas I think sometimes in business what we do is, and in learning what we do is just give someone the required outcome and expect them to get there. We don't necessarily take them on that journey. We don't drip feed them. We don't give them small bits of changes to help them come to the realization. And something you said actually, in regards to, when it's personal and taking someone on that journey, that's something that happened to me as well, because I definitely wanted to change, and I've stuck with it and stayed consistent. Whereas my boyfriend, he didn't. Although he said he wanted to change, and he wanted to come out running, come to the gym, it's not something that he was definitely passionate about, and that's completely fine. And it's no negativity towards him, and that's the decision that he wanted to make. But where you've got someone that genuinely wants to make the change and someone that doesn't want to make the change, really, you can really see the difference, because he'd go to the gym for perhaps a week and then give himself a pat on the back and then just finish it. Whereas, my mindset was slightly different. So yeah.
And I think it's, you're talking about those small changes, making it manageable, making people really, have to own that change and believe they want to do it and drive that themselves. If you flip that back into learning, I think the reason that we maybe don't make the changes is because, in essence, those things are really hard to sell or to implement. It's hard to go as a learning team and we're going to do all these really incremental, boring things that may have a small impact over time, but that will, have the colossal effect. And coming back to the name of our business, the learning effect, it was about the butterfly effect and those little changes rippling and having the impact over time. And it's not the big bang solution that lots of people think it is. And driving those into a business makes it different in terms of, it's not big programs, it's not lots of swells of content, it's more creating the habitual goal setting, driving, feedback, and whatever any of those things are. Now, flipping back to when you started the journey, and you mentioned, say, couch to 5K and anything else, what tools or structure, because you said it was around consistency, helped you?
So yeah, couch to 5K, that's something that I started last year. That helped me get into running. Again, prior to doing it last year, I tried couch to 5K before, and I'd got to sort of week 4 or 5. And I think it's where you start having to run for 5 minutes in kind of chunks throughout the run. And I just didn't enjoy it. And again, I wanted to do it this time, or last year when I started and completed the couch to 5K. I really wanted to do it. And what I did was started the couch to 5K in plenty of time, but then I organized with my brother, who was quite an avid runner at the time, a date that we were going to do our first 5K together. And we went and did the park run, our local park run, together. So I had that in mind. So I had the goal set out, but I had then the app in order to help me with that training. And obviously that's got reminders on it. So that kind of prompts you to do that, and make sure you're getting those regular runs in. And because I had that end goal of running with my brother, that enabled me to kind of carry on and run through. I think from pure embarrassment if I didn't do it, and you know, determination that I was going to do it. And actually it's something that I really love doing. I've done probably, I don't know how many 5Ks since March last year, probably 50, 60 5Ks. I run 5K at least every week now. And then now I've mixed in sort of 10Ks. And then by the end of the year, I want to do a half marathon. So that helped me. Now I like running. I can go out and I just go and run. But some people that I go running with, they use things like Strava to help plan. If we're going for kind of further than 5K, we can plan out where we're going to run. So that just kind of, I think that gives you the direction. I don't like aimless running. You know, so I think they're really good tools to support. In regards to the diet side of things, it was just MyFitnessPal, and I know there's tons of different ones out there now, and you can get kind of AI where you can take pictures of stuff, and you know, it can get the calories in it. It's not that I'm really weighing everything or doing anything like that, but for me, it's something that can help keep track of things, roughly, if that makes sense. So, you know, I know, and I'm more conscious about what I'm eating. So I haven't, and this time around, I haven't kind of cancelled out any food. So like, I still eat sweets and I still eat chocolate, but I'm very mindful to buy the single chocolate bar rather than the share a chocolate bar, or you know, the same with sort of Haribo, like just a little tiny packet of Haribo, not the sharer one, because I'm more aware now of how many calories and things. I think that one's more around the awareness side of things, of like, actually, what are you putting in your body and how many calories is that? And you know, trying to keep in a sort of deficit essentially, because you know, just having looked at sort of nutritional things and how to lose weight, everyone probably now knows as well, that's on social media, that you need to be in a calorie deficit in order to lose weight, which makes complete sense. You just eat less than what you're burning off. But yeah, so that's helped me. But again, I'm very conscious that I become then obsessed by these as well. So that's something that I have to be careful with. And I don't know if that's part of my personality where I really like data. So obviously I've got my iWatch and everything fits into the health apps on my phone. And I sometimes become obsessed by checking that, you know, like how fast am I running? How, you know, how much am I eating? And then sometimes it sometimes feels a little bit detrimental to, am I then enjoying stuff? You know, I have to be very careful with, you know, it's fine to have a donut, even if it's going to push me over my calories, because it's not going to make, again, that much of an impact. You know, where the run's the same thing, it might not, you know, you're not going to see instant gratification. The donut, you probably will see instant gratification, but equally you're not going to suddenly get really put on loads of weight. So, you know, I think it's having that awareness, and you know, these things are there for awareness, but I try not to get too obsessed by them, even though it's something that just comes naturally to me, because I love seeing the data and I love seeing the changes and I love seeing the correlation between things. You know, but I think it is something just to be wary of.
And I've always thought back when you see people go through learning something or making that habitual change, that it can have a snowball effect because it can help almost convince yourself that you can do different stuff. So have you seen that impact on other areas of your life or your approach to other things?
Yeah, I feel way more positive. I've got a much more positive outlook on life. I've got more energy, which I think helps towards productivity. So like doing stuff around the house, like stupid things like hoovering or cutting the grass, like sometimes before I was just like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. But now I've got much more of a positive mindset and I'm like, oh, no, I'll just get it done today. And I think that's purely because I've got more energy because I'm being more positive in how I'm doing things and approaching things. I've got a lot fitter. Um, and I'm realizing that these things aren't going to wait, like they will wait, but I've still got to do it at some point. I may as well just do it now when I've thought about it. So, and I can fit more stuff in then, because putting things off is always going to have sort of a negative impact, I think. If you just crack on and do it, it's done, it's out of the way then. But I was very much in that mindset before. I was like, I can wait till tomorrow. And then something else comes up, and now you've got loads of things to do. Whereas now I'm just more positive. And I think that helps you be a bit more calmer because you're not putting things off all the time. So you're not rushing everything all the time because you're doing it at the appropriate times. Um, I think so, just not just in general productivity in life, but I think in regards to work, you become a lot more clearer in the way that you're thinking, and it helps with thinking more. I'm quite pragmatic in the way that I think anyway, but I think it helps with that. And it helps me just think more clearly. Because I'm just living healthier, basically. I think that's what it is. But you feel really good. Like it impacts things like your sleep, if you're kind of not doing as much and you're perhaps drinking too much or you're eating the wrong food or whatever that might be, things like sleep become difficult. As much as you might sleep, if it might not be good sleep, So I think when you're going out, you're burning, you're eating the right foods. I think that helps as well. Exercising helps you eat the right foods as well. I know you've said this before when we've had similar conversations, but going for a 10K run, I've got no desire to come back and eat McDonald's or anything like that. You want to eat healthy food because you want to fuel your body and you want to eat the right food. So that's helped. Like they both come hand in hand of helping, and eating well enables you to be able to do things better in your body, but equally doing well in your body helps you eat better, and then it impacts things like sleep. You can sleep well again, you're not kind of having disturbed sleep and things like that. So and that then impacts your whole day. You're not waking up feeling groggy, you're waking up with more of a positive mindset. You're getting out, you're walking the dog in the morning, so I think it impacts absolutely everything. And it's something that I could have probably done a bit earlier on, but didn't need to. And then, yeah, I'm just glad that I have done now, and it is something that I'll definitely continue to do, and can only get better.
I think, as someone who works alongside you, I can see that change in your attitude to things and that rippling out elsewhere. But if we go back a couple of years and, say, how would you describe yourself in relation to running or exercise? I don't know what you'd say now about yourself, but I think the answer then would have been quite different.
Yeah, like I've always done some form of exercise. I wasn't taking it seriously, and then I didn't do the things around it. So like I still ate bad essentially, and I still drank too much. And I did have that awareness. Like I think everyone's aware of what they're doing. I don't think anyone's that naive to it. There might be some people out there, but I was fully aware of it. But I think I was denying it essentially. I wasn't, I was blaming everything else but the things that I was doing. But having changed those things, it was definitely my fault. Going to the gym once a week, like I was probably back then, I thought I'm like a avid gym goer, and that was gonna have like all this great effect on me. But now it's like actually I go to the gym 3, 4 times a week and go running once a week. So they're the things that are actually being helpful. And I'm not going out so much. I perhaps go out drinking once a month, not every weekend, and that's once a month if that. And then all that other time where I was perhaps going out at the weekend, I'm now filling with going out for walks, or cleaning the house, or doing really more active things. So yeah, I think I was probably in denial about what I was doing. And it's a thought that I've had before as well. But yeah, definitely in denial, and yeah, nowhere near compared to where I was now.
And you've talked about evolving goals a bit, but what comes next for you?
Like I said, I think it's doing a half marathon by the end of the year. So I'm sort of running 13, 14 kilometers at the moment. So I've only got another sort of 10 to add on to that. And that sounds like it's quite easy, but it's going to be difficult. But again, it's something that it's a goal that I want to do, because over this year I've collected probably about 6 or 7 different medals. And that's partly why I like entering running competitions, is for the medal. So that small little outcome, and I'll continue to do so, because I've got a nice collection on the wall at the moment. But I think again, it's just maintaining stuff and obviously getting better. It's looking at diet, and I've been more conscious about what I'm eating. I eat fairly well anyway, as in I cook my own food. I don't eat lots of sort of ready meals and takeouts and things, but how can I up that, and how can I make that better? Like I saw recently in the news that like someone died from eating a ready meal from Tesco's, and then it just got me thinking, what are we eating? And I don't mean just ready meals, I mean anything that's processed. And yeah, so I don't know if I'll change something towards that. I have no idea yet, but definitely something that I'm more conscious about. But yeah, definitely the running. And yeah, I think that's about it for now.
And what would be your takeaway advice for anyone who was not achieving the goals that they felt they wanted to?
I think don't beat yourself up about it, and it's go back and review what you're trying to do, and break it down. Like I said, throughout this podcast, is break down your goals and make sure that they're realistic. I know everyone's probably had the same conversations with managers and stuff over their careers, about SMART objectives. I think that applies to something like this as well. They've got to be achievable. You've got to have a time frame. They've got to be realistic. All of those things are really important. And, if you try and go too ambitious, I think it's going to end in disappointment. You just need to be really realistic, and have little goals as well throughout that. So you might have, you might want to, like, I want to be able to run a half marathon by the end of the year, but I know in order to achieve that, I need to do lots of little runs before I can get to that. So I'll set them as goals, and they feel just as good achieving those as the main goal that you're going for as well. So I think it's just going back, analyzing it and seeing what's out there in regards to tools as well. Like we mentioned tools, there's lots of things that can help you, but not live your life by them, because I think you could become very unhappy. But just have them there as a guidance.
No, and thank you for sharing your journey and that achievement. And I think it's really important to listen or share that impact of people who have made significant changes. And it's not a big step, it's a series of little steps. It's picking the tools and routine that's right for you, not just following someone else's path blindly, but maybe that path gets you going, but knowing yourself well enough to do those things. So I think there's lots of really valuable lessons for people to take away from the episode. So thank you, Katie.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Learning Reinvented podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. If you've not already done so, please follow our podcast. And if the learning effect can help you and your organisation, please do get in touch. You can find both James and Katie on LinkedIn, and our contact details are in the show notes below.